Hey guys, do you remember being a kid? Do you remember part of your going outside to play ritual being that you put bread bags or grocery bags over your feet before you put your boots on? Do you remember that whole thing? Well, there's a lot of science behind that act that actually helps keep you warm. And I want to talk about that today as kind of a cold weather tip for you guys. Because up here in New York, we get some really, really cold weather, and we frequently see, -10, -20 here. And the work doesn't stop around the homestead just because it's cold. So I want to give you guys a quick tip for keeping warm when you're working hard in an environment that, and just won't allow you to wear expensive recreational ski gloves. And part of our problem in society is originally, when I was a kid 30 years ago, we used bread bags, we used grocery bags as a means to make our feet warmer. Nowadays, we just tend to try and spend our way out of problems, and we buy bigger boots, bigger gloves, more expensive boots, Gore-Tex, all this fun stuff. But in reality, a lot of this gear doesn't work well it doesn't work well when you're doing hard work. If you're doing hard manual labor in a pair of Gore-Tex gloves, odds are you're probably going to shred them pretty quickly. So what good does that do you? None. So I want to talk and use that old premise of the bread bags on how to keep your hands warm when you're working in extreme cold. And it's the same premise, just using a simple, cheap solution, which is rubber gloves. And I use the ones you get from the cleaning aisle, not medical grade. Those medical grade ones are great, but they're a little thinner. These ones are a little thicker and longer, and they work great. And they really do their job when it comes to keeping you warm. Now, the idea being that when you're working hard, say you're out there splitting wood or shoveling your roof off or doing something like that in extreme cold, as you warm up, your hands are going to sweat. Now, as your hands sweat, that material gets into your insulating layers. It gets into your glove, it gets into all that, and as it pulls away from your body, it actually cools you. So the more you sweat, the more of a cooling effect it has on your body. And then you end up, what do? You get cold, so you work harder, and it makes you, in turn, colder and colder and colder, because the more you sweat, the more you get cold. So what this does is, well, number one, when you put these gloves on, it keeps that moisture from evaporating off your skin. It remains on your skin. It never has an opportunity to cool your hands. So it keeps you warmer. Number two, it doesn't let that moisture escape into your glove, which keeps your insulating layer drier and help insulate you better. The downfall, of course, there's always a downfall, is that you're going to have a whole bunch of moisture stuck against your skin. So if you're doing this for a prolonged period of time, you may need to change out these gloves once or twice along the way. It depends on how long you're working for. If you're out for 4 or 5 hours in -20 splitting wood, yeah, you might go through a couple pairs of rubber gloves, depending on how hard you're sweating. You can go very easily with light gloves when you're wearing a pair of vinyl gloves. I've always kind of found that, especially if I'm camping, winter camping, moisture is your biggest enemy. And what I found is I actually started wearing winter gloves at night, or vinyl gloves at night, and then just like a thin pair of like rag wool, and it actually kept me a lot warmer than those big bulky ski gloves. Plus, if I had to do anything in the night, like go to the bathroom, I could do that without having to remove my gloves, unlike those big bulky Gore-Tex, recreational ski things. So I really stand by this method. It really works well. It works well with leather gloves, it works well with rag wool, it works well with fleece, whatever it is you're doing. But when you're doing hard work out there, it can really tear up your wool, it can really tear up your fleece. Leather gloves just aren't warm enough, but if you add a nice pair of vinyl gloves under your leather, you can actually work pretty hard outside, keep your hands warm, and not have the issues that you would normally have in extreme cold.